Hello and welcome to the Reetin Entertainment Podcast, episode 371 for October 9th, 2022. My name is Nathan Reetin Spruth. Joining me this week, we have Andrew Roa McFain.
You've got me.
Yeah, I got you, babe. And we also have Connor, the cyberpunk monk, Besh.
So, we watch anime.
No, that's done. It's retired. It's dead.
It will never go away.
I, of course, am your host, Nathan Reetin Spruth, and I am going to close SoundPad, so now my girlfriend can play Fallout on my Steam Deck. So, Roa, where can we find you? Connor, where can we find you? Both of you.
Aroa.website. And one of those links is to Clinton's Core Classics, or Rise of the Rune Lords First Edition Actual Play Podcast. Check it out. We're doing great numbers.
We are. We're doing numbers, which is more to
We're
say.
doing numbers.
It's better.
We are doing numbers I never would have expected us to do.
More than 10. That is the more than we thought we would do. And there we are
quadruple digits, homie.
I know I'm a little jealous of my other podcasts that I do. Because it gets way better numbers than the Reetin Entertainment Podcast, but that's okay.
Because we don't do any marketing.
I also don't do any marketing.
Yeah, I think it's...
Well, you don't have
I specifically
to so much
market on here.
You don't have to so much with a podcast that, like, has, like, a gimmick, I guess.
For sure.
But
a following that's already built in.
Well, that too, but like, this podcast is, like, every fucking podcast that's on the internet.
For real.
Yeah, we're the same as, like, not necessarily the same, but we're similar to, like, any other video game podcast.
This is resume fodder.
Yeah, we tend to have, like, better opinions, and by we, I mean I tend to have better opinions than most other people on podcasts, but that's about it.
Yeah, but when you have something like Clinton's Core Classics, where is our actual play podcast that you can find everywhere, mainly on Spotify, Amazon, iTunes. That's more of a niche thing. So while there might be fewer listeners overall, there's also going to be fewer podcasts and fewer podcasts of quality aside from that. So if somebody does stumble upon our podcast, they're going to find that it has good editing, at least. It's got that going for it.
Are you saying that there's not like a billion actually play podcasts? Because boy, oh boy, are you wrong on that one.
Well, no, I'm saying that there are more video game or tech podcasts than there are actual play podcasts, even if there are a ton of actual play podcasts.
I would be interested in seeing those numbers.
Video game or tech podcasts which have limited to no actual production value and are more or less just three dudes bullshitting for an hour and a half.
That's our next. That when we do the revamp, it's going to be named "Three Dudes Bullshitting for About an Hour and a Half." That's going to be the name.
Somebody actually probably
SEO.
Probably does.
Yeah.
But anyway, of course, I'm your host Nathan Reetin Spruth. I think I said that, but Aroa, what games have you played this week?
I've been jumping around a little bit. I've played a little bit more of Cult of the Lamb because I never finished it, and I'm now at a point where, like, half of the game is not really a game anymore. So if you're unfamiliar, Cult of the Lamb, the idea is one half is basically Binding of Isaac, and the other half is like a town simulator thing,
like Harvest Moon or something, right? Similar.
The most twisted version of Harvest Moon.
Yeah, and it's very loose. Like, it's like you have townspeople, they go around and they do your menial tasks for you. You just have to make sure everyone stays happy. Or you use the mushroom ability and brainwash all of them to be happy.
Oh, okay, that's what I would do.
Yeah, so, like, there's that whole side of the game, and I've essentially finished it. All I have left now is doing all the Binding of Isaac stuff. And the unfortunate thing that I'm kind of running into is that there's not enough depth to the Binding of Isaac side of things to keep me interested, which is unfortunate.
Just beat it.
Yeah, like I'm trying to power through it because I am interested to see like where the storyline goes a little bit, and I do want to know if like it's going to open up in any real way past this point. But I don't really see that happening. Not until some new content comes out for it, and whether that be paid DLC or whatever, I don't care. But I have also been so I'm terrible at fighting games, but
Me
I
too.
like them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to try out Dreamcast emulation on my Steam Deck because I haven't really done that yet. So I put Dead or Alive 2 on there, and I'm remembering that, oh yeah, I actually like Dead or Alive's fighting system a lot. So
I specifically like Dead or Alive 2 and 3. Those are really good.
I like
I
Extreme Beach Volleyball.
That one's also good. Yeah.
Yeah, I know several people that are pretty big fans of Extreme Beach Volleyball. So I also put Dead or Alive 6 on my Steam Deck, and that was the first game that has ever crashed my entire Steam Deck.
Uh-oh.
Oh, wow.
It straight up, like, I was in the middle of a match, and then suddenly it started doing like the classic blue screen, like where it plays the same sound clip over and over again, and it's just frozen.
Oh.
Uh, and then it sat like that for a good minute, I think. And I tried hitting the volume buttons because I wanted to see if like any aspect of the OS was still responsive, because I couldn't hit the Steam button. So like that part was dead, but as soon as I hit one of the volume buttons, the whole thing restarted.
Interesting.
So
So
yeah,
it
That
did
sounds
not
like
do
a
well.
little. Yeah, it sounds
no.
like the OS had a little bit of a fucky wucky.
Yeah, otherwise it was running fine once I dropped the resolution down to 720p. Like it was a solid 60 FPS. So
What
I
was
don't
it
know what
at?
happened there. What?
What was it at the normal 800p or whatever they have it at, or?
It started out at 1920 by 1080.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. And we'll
which
talk. We have more to talk about with the Steam Deck, so uh, l- later in the podcast. So don't. If you're going to talk about any of the updates or anything, let's talk about that during the story.
I don't even know what you're talking about. So okay.
Oh, good.
But it is weird that it is Dead or Alive 6 is like Steam Deck verified. But like out of the box runs at a subpar frame rate. And since the game is designed the way that it is to like make online fair, it actually runs in slow motion if you're not running at 60 FPS. So it's very awkward getting through the initial tutorial so that I could get to the options menu and drop the resolution in half. But
I hate games that you have to get into the game before you can actually set the settings up.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
because particularly in that case, like I was having trouble getting through the tutorial because I couldn't press buttons too quickly or it wouldn't register.
I kind of like the way that like Fallout does it, right? Fallout
Yeah.
4 or whatever, where or and
Like
New
all the
Vegas.
Fallout, all the
Yeah.
Bethesda Fallouts, anyways.
Yeah, where you start it up and it like brings up another launcher that lets you set the settings and then you say play game.
Or
I like the way that
just
is.
just have a 2D title screen,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, something
Like
like that.
that's not a new idea.
No.
Fucking take 5 seconds in your goddamn Unity game and put that in there.
Indeed.
Dead
Did you
or
play
Alive's not Unity, but
Did you play
yeah.
anything else? You said you had the Dreamcast emulator. Did you get what was it? Power Stone?
No.
Oh, okay.
Power Stone's so good. I did want to ask you before you moved on, just like how well Dreamcast emulation in general ran on the Steam Deck. I'm
Oh,
not sure if Dead or
absolutely
Alive 6 was a
flawlessly.
Steam game or not. I assumed it was Steam.
6 was a Steam game,
Yeah.
but no, DOA 2 worked perfectly fine. Crazy Taxi worked perfectly fine.
Hell yeah.
So I had
Yeah,
run
yeah,
Dreamcast games.
yeah.
I see what you did
Yes,
there.
I had run Dreamcast games on my Switch pretty well, like with minute frame drops every once in a while. And it uses the same. It's RetroArch is what it defaults to when using whatever. I think it's Retro Deck. It might be, or no, it's Emu Deck.
Yeah, that's the one I have is Emu Deck. I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
that
a couple of
the
them.
Retro Deck is another one, but no, I've been using Emu Deck, and that's the one that it defaults to RetroArch, and it's run perfectly fine through. I think Flycast is the core. There
Mhm.
is another Dreamcast emulator that I've used on PC called Redream that should run on the deck, but installing anything that isn't in the KDE Discovery store thing that installs as a flat pack is kind of a nuisance, and I haven't wanted to dig into doing that.
It's not
So
too bad, but yes, it is annoying. You basically just get the installer and like you have to run it from within Steam. Like you have to add the exe or whatever as
oh no, that's not what I mean. I
Oh, okay.
mean, so it's available as a Linux binary. The problem is to do anything that isn't a flat pack on the deck, you need to enable root access. So
Mm.
you have to go through this procedure of generating a root password so that you can use the root account, and then that also makes it to where you're not using a technically read-only file system.
That makes sense.
Uh,
We're
so
gonna
yeah,
I'm gonna ask you
dangerous.
one last thing. Any other games to talk about?
How was World of Warcraft?
Finally done with it for another month. So
Hell yeah.
Until the dragon one comes out.
yeah, so we finished Keystone Master, I think it is, uh, for this season, which basically means you get, I think it's 2,000 Mythic Plus season points.
Yeah.
And then you get a cool mount.
Oh,
Hooray!
good. I
Um,
oh,
yeah.
I haven't played World of Warcraft, and when did World of Warcraft launch?
2007.
2007.
I haven't played it since 2007 because my friend's like, "Hey, you want to play?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I started up a tune on his account and played that until like level 17, and then that was it. It's as much as I played of World of Warcraft. But
To be fair, a lot of my most memorable Warcraft memories were like high level rating. So
yeah,
I don't think you got really the taste of why people get hooked on this game, or at least
pr-
why they did back in the day.
probably not. And also, I was still like I was subbed to Final Fantasy 11 at the time, so I wasn't really looking to get another subscription with my minimum wage
He already
job.
had 1 second job.
Yeah. Actually, I would argue that Final Fantasy 11 was probably a more full-time job than World of Warcraft.
I would
Nathan's
agree
always
with
like,
that.
I don't have an addictive personality, and yet he's still addicted to Final Fantasy 11.
No. I totally have an addictive personality. That's that's my problem. Is I do get addicted to things pretty easily.
Like Final
That's what-
Fantasy 11.
like Final
And
Fantasy 11.
cocaine.
And cocaine, that severe cocaine addiction I have. Anyway, we're gonna move on. We're gonna ask Connor, what games did you play this week?
One quick honorable mention, just because I always talk about it. I played some Space Station 13, and all month they
What?
are going to be doing some spooky shenanigans. They set up a fifth server, which is specifically like what they do when they have gimmick rounds. So one of the ones I want to talk about is we got sent in specifically as a cleanup crew. The mission briefing was like, hey, the station hasn't reported in. We fear the worst. Fix it up, get it making money, and we'll send you a ship after it's done. We got there, like there was silver hole breaches, there was no oxygen anywhere. We fixed it up, and then we discovered it was haunted. Anybody who had passed away, like as a character instead of clone, like coming back as a clone, instead came back as a ghost and became a part of the problem. Space Station 13 is interesting in that it's not balanced for like a zombie style gameplay. And when there are that 60 plus antagonists against 10 or less survivors, things get nuts. But it was so fun. And as always, I recommend anybody try this game out if they have the patience to learn a complex system. And then we'll talk about the Steam Deck. Nothing about the most late updates, of course. I finished Sleeping Dogs, and boy, let me tell you, Sleeping Dogs is eventually a game that is just the same mission over and over.
It is. I still like the game. I think that it was...
Still like the game.
Yeah.
The definitive edition added cool stuff, like that smart car with the 2 turrets makes the game just embarrassingly easy. But now that I'm done with that, I'm playing Disco Elysium, and I have a weird feeling this game is going to make me feel things.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that does that, yeah. I haven't played it at all, but yeah, it definitely makes you feel things.
I'm not done with the first day yet, and I'm kind of intentionally taking things real slow. My partner doesn't know whether or not I have like ultra depression right now. I think he just thinks I'm incompetent. And in a story game like this, normally you get a whole bunch of text options and you read them all. And I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the case, but I definitely feel like there's things I just don't want to say to certain people, so I don't.
I think
And
that's correct. I think that's
so far
That
it's
is
been pretty
absolutely
rewarding.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. You
It's
very much it very much rewards role playing your
Yeah.
character. So
That was
I mean,
one thing that was one thing I liked and did not like about the original Divinity Original Sin, the first one, is when you were playing single player, you would have to role play like different characters would have different options of what to say.
oh yeah,
And-
like the conflicts.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you're doing it single player, then you're just fighting against yourself.
sometimes, yeah.
And I think it
It's
would
like
have been
being
better.
it's like being your own DM.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
would have been better to play it with another person, but I didn't have anybody to play it with, Connor. So
The time difference.
it's that time difference. But did you play anything other than what was it? Sleeping Dogs,
Disco
and
Elysium,
Disco
Sleeping
Elysium,
Dogs,
Space
and
Station.
Spaceman Stations 13s. I've done a whole bunch of painting, and you could always go on our Discord and look at my art palace to see the things that I paint. I've been doing a whole bunch of editing. The next episode that that I need to do by next week is an hour and 48 minutes long. So I have a lot of work to do this next week.
Damn.
And I've also played being on call this week. So like all things considered, I've been busy as hell, and I've still gotten my video gaming in. Feels good.
Indeed. And we're going to move on to me. I actually do not have an addictive personality, so I started playing Final Fantasy 14 again.
Uh-huh.
I played that a little bit. I was playing my Lalafell Samurai and just trying to get through some of the main story quests. Why are you laughing?
Because you said the words Lalafell Samurai.
You're playing a Lalafell, you fucking dweeb.
I will in Final Fantasy 11 and 14, I will only play as either the Galkas, which are the Rohidens in Final Fantasy 14, or the Tarutarus, which are the Lalafells in Final Fantasy 14. So I will only play as either the giant characters or the really small characters.
Be a cat girl like a real man.
I will not play as a cat girl. I will not play as an elf or a human. I refuse to play humans in any fantasy game.
That's fair.
I just can't do it.
I mostly get that. There's a time and a place.
Yeah, and in Final Fantasy 11, you couldn't even play as a male cat girl.
You can't play as a male rabbit girl right now, I don't think.
Yeah, but when Final Fantasy 14 came out, you could play as they're called Makote, I think, in 14. And they have a male and female version, but in Final Fantasy 11, they use them for breeding. That's what the manthras were. So all of the guys were kind of like hidden away and only used for breeding in storyline. And so there's there's a cutscene when you go to the past, and there's a single like freed manthra, and that's it. It's an awkward game. And then I went back in time and I played some Final Fantasy 12, and that game is okay. I have gotten to the point where it's kind of playing itself a lot of the time.
Uh huh.
But that's, it's all right. I need to take a couple hours and set up a gambit spree so that I can just grind up all the license points I need for the rest of my life.
Uh
But
huh.
I'll be doing that eventually.
That is a
Um,
great game to stream because you could just like hold forward for 45 minutes and say whatever the fuck you want to say.
yeah, that is a nice thing because you can kind of talk. But then like you'll go and they'll be like, and this is a 20-minute cutscene, and you're like, all
Yeah,
right,
a lot of those. A
yeah.
lot of those.
And then on Friday, my friend and I decided to play some Overwatch 2, which I mentioned have I mentioned that I hate battle passes?
Uh huh.
Also, you don't have all the characters unlocked when you start the game.
Nah,
Unless
you
you
gotta
pay for
pay
the
for
battle
those.
pass.
Right.
Yeah, and then otherwise you
It's
have
the
to.
League of Legends model.
Well, okay. So you can earn. It's different than the League of Legends model insofar as the number of games you play will unlock certain characters. So, like, if you play one game, it'll unlock one character, and then all the way up to 150 games, you will unlock the final character to unlock.
No, is that every character in the roster, or is that just like the original set?
I believe that is every character in the roster.
Okay,
So
because
you do
I
unlock your
only had
characters.
I had only really heard about how like none of the original characters were unlocked even by default.
Yeah, that's true. So like I played Roadhog a lot and I think when I played that I was fairly good with Roadhog. However, you have to play 15 games to unlock Roadhog.
See, that's some fucking horse shit too, because like they replaced Overwatch with Overwatch 2.
That's what I was saying. On Friday, I was like, here's the deal. I kind of get it. If they came out with Overwatch 2 as free to play and you've never paid for the game, then let's use that system. But I've already paid for the game.
I wonder if
Technically, you
that's
paid for it
illegal.
twice.
I did pay for it twice.
It's probably not illegal. I mean, that's how they get
I
away with it.
don't know.
Yeah.
That's what they did with Warcraft 3 on
That
unless you're,
is.
you secretly have a cracked version of the old one
Well,
on your Surface tablet. Don't tell
and
anyone
like,
about that.
I don't know, because like, can't you can still play the original Warcraft 3, but it
Uh-uh.
has to hook into the newer BattleNet service or something like that.
Unless
So
you have a
like,
cracked version that completely bypasses BattleNet, I don't believe the original version, like the one that you could purchase off the BattleNet launcher, would even
yeah,
launch anymore. You had to buy the remastered edition.
Yeah.
I thought that they like forced a patch on the original Warcraft 3 that required that you connect to the new BattleNet servers to be able to play the game, period. And it also that was what like killed mod support and everything for it. So now you're right, you have to have a cracked version to play the game, that you actually bought,
Yeah.
but uh
I
otherwise you can still play it. It's just that you're basically playing the new game with no nice graphics
yeah.
or
And
something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
so moving back to talking about Overwatch. While I was playing, I was doing all right, I think. And the servers went down in the middle of a match. So that was fun. And I went on Twitter while I was streaming. Thankfully, I had a friend to talk to. So they went down for like 40 minutes. And I just sat there and bullshit with my friend trying to get back into the game. And somebody on Twitter had mentioned, I'm going to go stream Overwatch. And I was just like, nah, I can't do it,
No, you're
man.
not.
Servers just went down. And he's like,
The
oh,
hell you
fuck.
are.
He's like, oh, fuck, you're right. And so once the servers came back up, I replied to that guy. And I was like, hey, servers are back up. And the guy ended up coming into my chat, following me. I ended up going into his chat later. And anytime you meet somebody, or I meet somebody, or go into somebody's chat, I'm always worried that they're going to be like an asshole. But I get in there, and he's like, "Fuck Ben Shapiro," and I was like, "Okay, good. I'm in the right place." So anyway, I did when the servers were up, I did have fun playing Overwatch 2, but I do think that they should have made it like if you bought the first game, you should at least have all the characters unlocked. At least
Yeah.
all the original characters.
I wonder
Because
how many
you paid
copies
for
the
them.
original Overwatch sold.
Lots.
A lot.
A lot. Like
I get why they did it. I don't support it. I think it's a really awful thing to do to your customer base, but I get it.
I get it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. But I will probably still play Overwatch 2 every once in a while with some friends. Because there's not. I mean, it's still fundamentally a good game.
As of 2017, Overwatch had 35 million active players.
That means 35 million people bought the game. Who knows for how much, but they bought the game.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. Anyway, we're going to move on, and we're going to kind of rearrange the order of the stories here. I want to talk about the Steam Deck story first, because that's kind of the smallest one, as they are coming. Well, first off, you can actually purchase the Steam Deck now, without having to do reservations.
I have already recommended people who expressed even the slightest bit of interest to it to just make the dive and pick up at least the middle tier one.
Yeah, that's what I got, and it's good. I wish I would have gotten the highest end, but that's just because I wanted it, and Ash got it instead of me, which is upsetting.
The high end ones have like screens that bubble up or something, don't they?
They do, unless you and I don't know if anything's been done about that since the launch of them. I don't think so, but I didn't have any problems with it because I used a UV lamp to make sure that the adhesive was cured.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can buy a Steam Deck now. You can just go and order one and then have it delivered in like a month and a half, like Connor. And then also they have announced that they are selling their Steam Deck dock for, what is it, $80? Is it $90? $90.
A little steep, isn't it?
That's a little much.
That's a bit much. I have seen other docks that are about the same price. So it's not.
I've also seen docks that are half the price and they're the same form factor.
That's true. I mean, the dock, I'm sure it's nice, but there's no real reason, especially if you're like myself or Connor, or, where we have random docking stations or USB-C to HDMI just laying around. And it comes with, what is it? It's, let me get here. The dock itself supports 3 USB Type-A 3.1 Gen 1. I hate USB naming conventions. 5 gigabits per second ports, a single DisplayPort 1.4 connector, a single HDMI 2.0 port, and it has gigabit Ethernet. The dock also holds the Steam Deck upright with a groove in the front that the console can slot into. And also it has, for the USB-C port, it's a right angle connector, which is nice.
That is nice. It also comes with another power cable, which...
Oh, that's great. That's nice.
Yeah.
Nice
I don't think you can actually buy just the power cable right now, so...
Oh, I got a really good deal, where I have just a wall adapter that has a USB-C port that can supply up to 45 watts, and then the USB-A port can supply 18 watts, so I can charge my Steam Deck and my phone at the same time off that plug, which is really nice for laying in bed. But anyway, it's I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy this dock, but I wouldn't shame anyone if they did buy the dock. Like, I'm sure it'll work really well. I do think that it should have been released when the Steam Deck released.
Well, they did give a good reason for why they weren't doing that, and that was just that they could essentially have the same factory doing both, or have that factory doing just Steam Decks at twice the speed.
Interesting. So one of the other things that came out, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was with this Steam Deck launch, they have updated the Steam Deck to be better in docked mode, where you can actually choose your resolution and hertz.
Yeah.
Within the Steam gaming mode, which was one of my biggest complaints, because one of the docks I have would only support up to 4K 30 frames a second, or 30 hertz. And when you were in docked mode with gaming mode on, it would always run at 4K 30 hertz. And you couldn't. I was like, oh, well, then I'll just. It would be stupid if they didn't allow you to change the resolution within gaming mode, and they wouldn't let you change the resolution within gaming mode while you were docked. And so now I'll be able to hook it up to my TV in my bedroom and play Final Fantasy 12 at the 480p like it was meant to be. Right? Right, everybody?
That's such a man. This Nathan guy is such a funny guy.
So anyway, I am. That is one of the biggest things that I had a problem with actually with the Steam Deck, was when it was in docked mode, it would run like crap basically for me, because even just trying to run the Steam Deck at a normal 4K isn't going to go well, and then limiting it to 24 or 30 hertz is also very bad. So that's one of the...
Just play it in handheld mode only, like me, and just let your hands go numb.
I actually do want to say I think I injured my arm playing Steam Deck in bed at a funky angle. Like, you guys know what an arm bar is? Like,
yes, I do.
Yeah, I think I arm barred myself by playing my Steam Deck, which is embarrassing.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. But yeah, what I will do is I will hook it up to my TV and then use my Xbox controller to play video games on my 4K TV. It'll be nice. And
man, I've been playing Game Boy in bed since I was a kid. Don't take that away from me.
Oh man, I was so jealous of my friend who had a Super Nintendo and had the Super Game Boy when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. I made mistakes when I was a kid. So, well, actually, my parents made the mistake. They got me a Genesis instead of a Super Nintendo. Which
I had both.
You're spoiled. You're a spoiled brat, is what you are.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But now don't get me wrong. The Genesis is a great console and has some great games, but there are a lot of games for the Super Nintendo that were just fantastic that I wish I could have played when I was a kid.
Makes you feel any better? I only had like 5 games for my SNES.
Good. That does make me feel better. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about our next story, which is the PlayStation 5 has been jailbroken, kind of.
Yeah.
From what I understand, you can like put games. So they've jailbroke it, so you can like put games onto the system, but the jailbreak doesn't actually have the execute command available to it, so you can't actually play the games after you put them on.
Oh, the wonders of Unix file system permissions.
Yeah. It was designed for systems running firmware 4.03 from October 21st, October 21st, October 2021, although it might also work on older versions, even if you have the right firmware stability and reliability are spotty at best. It says here from TechSpot, the jailbreak allows users to access a debug menu in the PS5 dashboard and install PKG files for PS4 and PS5 games. In its current state, the jailbreak can install backups, but not actually run said games. This allowed fellow Twitter user Lance McDonald to install but not run PT, the interactive teaser for Konami's canceled Silent Hill. Is it Silent Hill or Silent Hills horror game?
Well, it is in the Silent Hill franchise, I think is what they meant by that wording. But
yeah, because I thought it was
going to be titled Silent Hills.
Okay. So it is it's neat that they are making progress on hacking the PS5, because while I don't generally like hacking current consoles, just because I don't want them to release a patch and then my console gets gets actually broken instead of just jailbroken.
Well, that's why you don't update it, you dingus.
Yeah, I know. But I do really like to see people that are able to just be like, hey, you're able to do whatever you want with your console that you own. Which, Sony has a history of limiting what you can do. Even so far to the point, like over a decade ago, they had to pay out money for a class action lawsuit because they took away the ability to install Linux. So, what do you guys think? Are either of you gonna buy a PS5 to mod it?
Even if I could buy a PS5, I wouldn't buy a PS5.
Why not?
Yeah, basically.
Because I don't want to play PS4 games.
There are some really good
And-
PS4 games on the PS5.
There
Yeah.
certainly are some PS4 games on the PS5. I agree with that part.
Yeah,
And they're also all coming to PC anyway, so like I don't give a fuck.
I know. This might be the last console generation I buy, just because of all the games that are coming to PC from both the Xbox and PS 4 and 5 coming over to the PC. I just why at that point would you buy a console? And that's how they're making their money, right? Like they're not making money selling the consoles; they're making money at selling the products.
Software.
Yeah.
Which is possibly why Sony even is doing that. Like because it's still so hard to buy a PS5. I wonder if they're struggling to meet sales goals on even like their first/second party games. And so they're like, fuck it, put them on PC. At least we can get a cut from Steam.
There's probably a pretty big slice of truth to that.
I mean, why else do you think that they put Days Gone as one of the first games on the PC? They're like, we did not make enough money on this game.
And like they're not doing like day one releases either. It's like stuff that came out on PS5 like a year ago, or the stuff that has been out on PS4 for years, like God of War and all that. 'Cause
Spider-Man,
they're
yeah.
not putting Ragnarok on PC, right?
I think they have announced that they are going to be putting more. They're going to be putting them in at a shorter time frame, if not that they're going to put them right away. So, God of War Ragnarok PC.
It hasn't been confirmed, but there is possible evidence.
Okay, so I would imagine it's one of those. It'll be exclusive to PS5 for
Like
a year,
six
something.
months to a year. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's been a long time coming, because with the way that this console, well, the last console generation and this one, the way that they've gone, like games are just made for standard x86 architectures running AMD Ryzen processors and AMD GPUs, or in Nintendo's case, NVIDIA GPU. So like,
yeah.
it's pretty much trivial to port your games over anymore.
Well, and
then like even Nintendo is using a standard architecture now with using ARM SoCs on the Switch. Like everyone's kind of designing their engines / games to be able to scale down to the Switch anyway. And if you have your shit made to scale in the first place, then you can always scale it up to what PC is capable of. So like everybody kind of wins with the way things are right now.
I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward because the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, mainly the PS5, the Xbox Series X, like all of the games are coming to PC. There are still some games for the PS4 and 5 that haven't transferred over, like Ratchet and Clank. That I would like to see a PS5 emulator, which they are working on, and see if it can run well, because that would be really nice.
That's a really curious proposition too, because like there's not so much, like you're not having to translate really like machine level calls or anything with that. It's just the OS level syscalls.
Yeah, and it's
you're
not
translating them from like BSD over to Windows or whatever.
right. Like it's not like the N64 is
Yeah.
such a
Well,
weird architecture.
even the PS3,
Oh
like
God, yeah.
because that was the last generation of like company just makes their own fucking architecture from the ground up. Like it's this bizarre power PC thing that is totally proprietary in every way. Like and we have a really decent emulator for that now. And
And you
like
can run it
the
on the Steam Deck.
you can, it runs fantastically actually. But like do you have the Xbox 360 emulator? It's not as good as the PS3 one, but I would argue that's because people aren't working on it as hard because there just aren't as many exclusives to 360 that people give a shit about.
Yeah.
Uh, kind of similar to the original Xbox emulator, how that just doesn't work very well
I think
because of
it's
that.
gotten better in the last year or two.
It has. It has improved substantially. I actually played Breakdown on on Zemu a few weeks ago, and it was surprisingly good. A little bit of weird shader order uh problems, but other
I
than that,
forget if it was the or Xbox or the Xbox 360 emulator, but I played the GoldenEye release.
that would have been
That
the 360 one.
Yeah, because they have a leaked version of the 360 port of GoldenEye that's like 95% complete. And
Yeah,
I played that, and I thought that was pretty neat that I
that's
could run that on there.
is that Xenia?
I
Is that
believe it is
that?
Xenia.
Yeah.
But yeah, so PS5 has been jailbroken ish. I'm sure they're working on more ways to maybe get a run script in there. That'd be pretty sweet. And then they'll be able to like play PS4 and PS5 games on there. And of course, we have some
I
there
would
are some
think.
PS5, and I don't know about Xbox Series X, but there are definitely some PS5 emulators that are in the works right now, and they are in
Undoubtedly.
very early development.
I wonder if I guess it depends on what level of access they have, because if it's only like user land level, then it probably doesn't matter. And I think I remember reading that because I never actually read the articles. Duh. Um, my
Neither do I.
understanding was my understanding was that that you're basically limited to a user and not kernel level access, and kernel level access is what many would refer to as a true jailbreak, because at
Yeah,
that point you have root level access to modify any files on the system, and that's probably what's keeping this from doing anything really cool. Because I would assume that the user account doesn't have the ability to write to uh I don't know what BSD uses. It's probably something like initd or whatever.
so, and
Uh
one of the reasons why the Xbox Series X might not have more of an emulation scene is because they allow you to get into the dev menu. You just had to
that's
pay
yeah,
$20.
that's a fair, yeah. But like
And
the I bet that if they could get full read write access for the whole system, they could write to the init script, which is like in Linux slash Unix terms, you have this essentially the equivalent of an autoexec.bat file from like the DOS days that runs every time the system boots, and also just the whole time that the system is running, that kind of keeps track of background tasks and services and whatnot. It's SVC host on modern Windows systems.
yeah,
Um, but I would imagine that if they can get full read write access, then they can modify something in there to sort of act as a chain exploit. But
probably.
if that were possible, they would have already done it.
So,
So
well, or they haven't figured it out yet.
there's just no way. These people are so miles smarter than me.
Yeah,
Like
they're
they
way smarter than either of us. Anyway, we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about this next story. It's very short. It's an update from last week. Hey, Dish got Disney back.
wow, it's like this happens every year or something.
Yep. It
It's not
says
really every year, but like
every.
I remember going to Texas Roadhouse a few years ago, and they had like a banner flying across the screen that was like, "Hey, make sure you tell ESPN to stop being assholes and making us pay too much for their stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Petty.
And I think that if it's a commercial thing like that, where you're at, a bar or whatever, and you have TV like that, it actually costs more money than just us buying cable.
Oh no, I mean this was like DirecTV
Oh,
superimposed this bar on top of the screen that was saying it's gonna be removed from DirecTV unless you guys, the viewers, write to ESPN and tell them to not take their service away from DirecTV.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's really strange. But yes, it says here from The Verge, our favorite site to read from. It says Dish and Disney have reached a handshake deal to immediately bring Disney's collection of cable networks back to Dish satellite and Sling TV customers. The two companies confirmed the agreement late on Sunday night, and it says we are pleased to restore our portfolio of networks on a temporary basis while both parties work to finalize a new deal, Disney said in a statement. Dish and Sling TV subscribers have now regained access to ESPN and its related networks, along with other channels. We already listed them all last week. But more importantly, everybody can watch Monday Night Football. Right?
Yay.
Everybody likes watching. I don't know. I never watch Disney stuff except for
I don't have TV.
Except for Goofy movie stuff. Anyway,
no one over the age of 30 pays for television.
I know, right? Like we all just like I've mentioned it before. I keep getting letters from my internet service provider that's like, "Hey, if you bundle, then you'll actually save money if you bundle and get TV and internet." And I'm just like, I've literally messaged them and been like, "Stop sending me these unless you're going to increase my upload speed. I will buy the stupid TV service if you give me 1 gig and 1 gig down and 1 gig up." And they're like, "No, that's not available in your area." I was like, "Okay, then stop talking to me."
Man,
useless.
There was a sales guy at Walmart back whenever I still went to Walmart for DirecTV, and he was like, "Hey, what shows do you watch?" I was like, "I don't." He's like, "Well, I mean, you gotta watch something, don't you?" I was like, "Well, if I do, I just pirate it." All right, have a nice day.
So, there for a while when they were trying to still keep Blockbuster open, I think they had a deal with, I think DirecTV bought Blockbuster, or was it Dish? I think it was DirecTV.
No, yeah, it definitely wasn't Dish because Dish was with Radio Shack. I remember because that was the one thing that no one ever sold.
Well, and our friend Durga was transferred from being the normal, Blockbuster, "Hey, can I get your movies rented?" to you have to try to be the Direct TV sales representative. And he was like, it sucked. And then, of course, then all the Blockbusters shut down, except for the one that's like 30 miles from me.
And the thing that really sucks being a salesperson for TV is whenever you're a salesperson for satellite TV.
Yeah.
Because even though it's supposedly gotten way better over the years, I'd imagine even back in the Blockbuster days, like it had a hardcore reputation for being terrible compared to cable. Because like, oh, it's cloudy, no service for you today. Like,
I do remember those days.
I had an awkward friend in high school, and this might be sharing too much information.
No one listens to this anyway.
Yeah, he was like, "Hey, so we got satellite TV now, and we have the Playboy channel if you want to come over and watch it." And I was like, "Nah, I'm good, man. Thanks, but I'm all right not watching the Playboy channel with you, okay?" So yeah, there were some benefits to satellite TV, but also like over here, I don't know if it's the same where you're at, and then we'll move on to the next story. But I do just have a question about it. When the people that I did know that had satellite TV, they all ran off the Eastern time, so shows would air earlier over here than they normally would if you were on cable. Did you guys have that like experience, or do you not know anything about that?
No, like they would broadcast things and be like, "Here's the normal time zone, and here's your time zone," and
Well, that's with
like
cable,
no,
but
that was with DirecTV.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think I seem to recall because we had Dish Network when I was growing up, pretty much the whole time, and I remember still needing to remember that whenever they said Eastern, that meant an hour before for me.
Yeah. That's
So
yeah, because like I remember certain things. Uh, they're just like, oh yeah, we our satellite is on Eastern time, so everything's earlier for us. So like, I watch professional wrestling, so instead of it airing at like 8 p.m., it was airing at like 5.
maybe
Like,
that
okay,
was like maybe your particular or their particular satellite technician was like, "Hey, you want to see something cool?
yeah,
If I calibrate it for this satellite, you get your shows 2 hours earlier."
maybe I have no idea,
I don't
but
I don't know.
I don't think that's how time works.
I don't
I
think that is either. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it,
Now that you're saying the words out loud,
yeah,
hey kid, want to time travel?
like I think that the shows just actually start 2 hours earlier for you because you're in a time zone from 2 hours before.
They're
Yeah.
coming
Like-
from the same tower, the same broadcast.
Well, okay, just so you know, it's 3 hours. So Eastern time is
Well,
3
yeah,
hours ahead
yeah,
of me.
Eastern 3 for you. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're gonna move
Sorry,
on.
I'm in the real time zone. So.
I'm sorry, I'm in the
Right.
proper time zone. It's proper
I'm in the
standard
correct
time?
standard time zone,
Why,
CST.
but by the way, why haven't we ratified that bill to stop daylight savings time or
We should-
always daylight savings time?
We should do
Why-
that. We should slowly convert to a UTC because if we're going to be a globalized world, we should act like it.
Yeah.
Okay, just so you know, the House passed it. The House passed the bill to make it always daylight savings time. They just need the Senate to vote on it.
Yeah, the Senate has more important things to talk about.
Just spend the 15 minutes to be like, hey, everybody want this?
No.
Say yes.
No,
Okay, cool.
no.
And then, of course, the Republicans will vote against it because they always suck. Anyway, we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about our last thing, which I don't really care about, but we have to. We always do the Apple ones. We have to do this one too. The Google announced new stuff at their Pixel event, and it's nothing I'm going to buy, but it looks, all the stuff looks fine. They're coming out with a new phone, the Pixel 7.
Hey,
new
did you
phones.
know? Did you know
Yep.
that the Pixel 3 on up all have car crash detection?
Really?
That Apple just touted? Yeah,
Interesting. I did
it's
not know
in
that.
it's in the safety app that I guess is like part of the Pixel package.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah.
And you turn that on, and then if you're in a car crash, it'll call 911 for you, just like the Apple thing that they just acted like they came up with. I
Oh,
didn't know
lovely.
that either until now. Yeah.
So, they're coming out with the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro. The Pixel 7,
It's too goddamn big.
it's 6.3 inches diagonal.
Yeah,
Has
it's
an
too
OLED
goddamn big.
has an OLED display with a 90 hertz refresh rate. It also
Yeah,
has
that's
a
great.
4,355
I don't have
milliamp hour
gorilla
battery.
hands.
Why not?
You,
Gorilla hands are great, dude. I love them. I could hold my Surface Duo in one hand.
Anyway, it's got a 4,355 milliamp hour battery and 8 gigs of RAM. And that's all right. And there's also the Pixel Pro 7.
Why
or
does it only
Pixel
have
7
8 gigs
Pro.
of RAM?
I don't know. Oh, it's because they wanted to put. I'll tell you why. The Pixel 7 Pro is bigger. It's 6.7 inches, which of course makes a row happy. It has
Yeah.
it has
Fuck you.
120 hertz refresh rate as opposed to 90 hertz refresh rate. Has an extra camera sensor, which they'll talk about in another slide. It has 5,000 milliamp hour battery, so about 700 milliamp hours more, and 12 gigs of RAM. They had to put the 12 gigs in the Pro version. That's why.
So
Yeah, that's why.
and that's what I was gonna say though, is like I feel like either the Pixel 6 or maybe the 5 had like part of the gimmick was that the Pro was just bigger and everything else about the specs was exactly the same. So like, why'd they change it? Is it just because they want to sell more Pros? Is that it?
That's
Because like
probably it.
it's not because there's not enough space. Because like it's all going in the same fucking SoC anyway. It's not like the RAM's separate on the board.
Yeah, because I have a Pixel 6, and I have 8 gigs of RAM.
I'm pretty sure that it was either the 5 and the 5 Pro or the 6 and the 6 Pro. It was just how big do you want your screen to be, and like that was it. And
I
then
think it also I think
I
with
think
the
maybe the
6,
Pro had more cameras or had it had the zoom camera.
yeah, it has the
like,
telephoto lens.
Yeah, because that was because every time these phones come out, I'm like, do I want to go back? And then I remember that I have an Apple card, and that would be a huge pain in the ass. And I'm like, nah, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But like, whenever I was considering it, I was like, I should get the Pro though, so I can get that telephoto lens because I'm still rocking a 10R, and I have one camera lens on the back of my phone, which is like an oddity nowadays.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna
By
continue
the way,
on with this. Huh?
I'm just gonna point out or mention here, I don't care about these phones.
That's okay. I
Yeah,
figured that's what we do every time we have a phone event. We never
Yeah.
care about the phones.
I am waiting
Is
for
it-
them to announce the Pixel 7 Pro XL,
Oh yeah.
which will be the size of an iPad.
Honestly, like, yeah.
It says from this slide, the next slide. I don't know why I got the one with slides, but that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, I was really confused because I was like, man, this is just 2 paragraphs. That's
Yep.
weird.
I did not finish this story because
Yeah.
the UI is awful.
So both devices come in a spatial green colorway, in addition to having your standard obsidian black and snow white options. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's
the
a
green
lemon.
one looks like shit.
I think I would
It's
get
like-
the obsidian black if I were to get. I'm not
Yeah.
going to get a Pixel 7. I'll wait until the 8 comes out. But yeah, it's.
Or don't you
they're
want
fine.
the first Tensor 2
Well, and here's the thing.
SoC that has no real benefits over the old one?
No, the only thing I would want is if they had a better camera, and they kind of do, but no. And also, if I were to get any of these
fucking matter.
if I were to get any of these phones, I would just get a case and put it over the color anyway, so it doesn't matter. We're gonna move on. Next slide talks about, looks like the camera specs. It says the Pixel 7 camera is 50 megapixel sensor, but the problem with the 50 megapixel sensor, if it's the same as the 6, which also has a 50 megapixel sensor, is it downscales to 12 megapixels anyway.
Well, it's like isn't it
like
like
puts-
super sampling?
Yeah,
Or
like
something?
it like super samples to make it like it brings in more light and stuff, but you only get the 12 megapixel like resolution. It's weird.
Which doesn't really fucking matter.
It doesn't.
And if you really care, you've got yourself the 120 megapixel ultra wide camera lens with 114 degrees field of view.
Well, let's talk about that. It says it has an f 1.85 aperture, which I actually think is pretty.
None of
good.
us know what that means.
It's how much
Big,
light.
big old camera lens.
It's how much light can come into the
Yeah,
sensor,
but like-
basically.
but like, how does that translate to picture good?
It makes it
Limiting
so,
actually,
light exposure.
well.
but I mean,
it's the opposite.
like,
What
just reading that, does that mean it's good?
it is, it does mean that the aperture is pretty good. What it means, from what I understand, is that the lower the aperture, the better you are in low light situations.
But then you also have AI on top of it that's going to make it substantially better anyway.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is I don't think any of this matters until you actually see photos that the thing takes.
Indeed.
Because
And-
like technically the iPhone cameras should be fucking fantastic. But like you compare an iPhone photo to a Pixel photo and the Pixel's going to win like almost every time because Google actually knows what the fuck they're doing when it comes to AI shit.
a lot of people, well, actually, a lot of people would subjectively disagree with you. I've
Yeah, that's
seen,
because they're dumb.
yeah, and the reasoning behind it is first off, the iPhone does take
I know
good photos.
the iPhone intentionally chooses a color palette that's more appealing to the eye versus the true to life representation that Google Photos do.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to move on. It has a 1.85 aperture, 82-degree field of view. The second camera is a 120 megapixel ultra wide camera with 114-degree field of view. The camera features both optical and electronic image stabilization. And then the Pixel 7 Pro is nearly similar. It has the 50 megapixel sensor, and then it also has a wider 125.8 degree field of view on the second camera. The third, it includes a third camera, which is the big thing, which is a 48 megapixel telephoto camera with f2.5 aperture, but it has a 5 times optical zoom, which is nice if you're trying to zoom in on something. So, not a huge upgrade from the Pixel 6 set of cameras that are on both the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. We're going to move on. Next slide. It has a cinematic mode. Lets you shoot video with a deeper depth of field.
So it's not actually called cinematic mode. They're just comparing it to cinematic mode on recent iPhones.
Yeah, but you have a recent iPhone.
No, I don't.
Oh, well, then we're going to move on. I was going to ask you if cinematic mode worked well.
Yeah, I don't think I can use it.
Okay.
Because Apple.
They're going to have first-party cases. All right, here's the one I wanted to bitch about. Oh, yes, the watch that everyone was so hyped about. The Pixel Watch. It looks nice.
Shit.
It looks fine.
I hate it.
Do you?
Dumb.
Why do you hate it?
This is round.
I don't. I mean,
it's all glass on the side, so it's gonna get all scratched up.
You know,
I do think it is a little flat.
I think it looks fine. I think it looks nice.
It just looks so boring and like I don't necessarily want my watch to just look like a fucking black circle. Like I like the Samsung way of doing things, and even the LG watches, whenever those were still relevant,
where
where they tried to
concave or whatever.
Well, it's like a real watch, you know, instead of just like a circular screen with glass all over it. Like, I kind of like the way that the Apple Watch Ultra is a little more utilitarian looking. Like, instead of everything needing to be rounded corners, though, like, and shiny, glassy shit, like, just take a fucking G-Shock and put a touchscreen in there, like, and I'd be more apt to enjoy that.
I see. The thing is, I think it looks fine. Currently I have a Galaxy Watch, and I was thinking, you know, if the Pixel Watch comes out and it looks fine, which to me it looks fine, I would wear one of those and look at my notifications on it and not do anything else on the watch, because I'd never use my smartwatch. I know that Aroa loves his smartwatch, but I almost never do anything with it.
See, that's the other part of it, though, right? Is that, like, what the fuck can you do with it in Wear OS? Because no one develops for Wear OS.
So
hardly anyone develops for Watch OS. Let me be just upfront here. Like, hardly anybody makes apps dedicated to smartwatches in general.
What is the popular Watch OS? So back, like, I don't know, 5 years ago when I was remotely interested in this, Tizen seemed like it was the popular thing, and I believe Tizen died. Like,
Tizen is all but dead. Yeah, Google managed to blow Samsung enough to where Samsung decided to make their most recent watches Watch OS 3, and that's what this Pixel is running. But overwhelmingly Apple Watch leads in terms of popularity, and therefore that's where people are making apps. And even then, I don't know what the fuck, like, all the hype about this was going to be, because, like, there's still not much you can do with it.
Yeah, I think it was that Google was making a watch. I think that was the hype. and they were probably, they're like, oh no, we had somebody leak some information on it. Oh shucks, it got leaked. But yeah, just to try to build up that hype, so everybody knew that the watch was going to get announced. Most people were just waiting for the price, and my thought was, if it's under $200, I might at some point buy this. It's $400.
Which, like, again,
Why?
like
Fucking
how
why?
how are you gonna compete with Apple if you're not gonna go on the price side of things whenever you're in a marketplace that is completely dominated by Apple?
I mean,
Like
the thing is, you can't use an Apple
you can't
Watch with an
you can't
Android
use an
phone.
Apple Watch on an Android phone. That is true. But I don't think anyone who actually gives like, if you're somebody who gives enough of a shit to spend $400 on a fucking smartwatch, then
You have an
you
iPhone.
yeah, you probably would be willing to just switch to iPhone because, like, you're a watch aficionado or some shit, but you also want a smartwatch or something.
Yeah.
Like, either you're going to use an iPhone and have an Apple Watch, or you're going to get Genero fucking China phone watch for $30 off of Amazon that'll still show you your notifications, and even some of them even let you respond to texts, and they're sub $100. Like, they're not very good,
I think I got
especially
my
as fitness trackers.
I got my Galaxy Watch for like $130.
Yeah, when I was seriously considering switching to Android again, that was the one that I was looking at. I believe, because it has all of the hardware sensors that my Apple Watch does, and it costs half as fucking much, and it has longer battery life. Because doesn't the
Yeah.
Galaxy Watch last for like
Fucking
3 days or some shit?
I can go to okay, yeah, the Pixel Watch, $400, way too expensive. I can go get a Galaxy Watch 5 for $114.
Yeah,
A
like
actually, I'm considering right
even
now getting
years
the
ago.
Galaxy Watch 5.
Like, I say years ago, it's probably just a year ago. Like,
Yeah.
it was 220, 250 maybe at
Mm-hmm.
Best Buy. Like, and it actually looks like a watch, like, instead of like some kind of weird fucking orb thing on your wrist. And like, I'm not a watch guy, but I just don't like how this looks. It just looks dumb to me.
Yeah, like I'm seriously looking at, because I think I have a Galaxy Watch 3. Um and I'm looking, you can get the Galaxy Watch 5 for 100, it says 144.99. I think I saw it at 114, but it's 144.99. Or you can get the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro for $209, $210. Which is half the price of the Pixel Watch. So they definitely should have gone with a sub $200 watch price point.
And like, this fucking article, I'm gonna go ahead and criticize the Gizmodo because fuck them anyway.
Yeah.
This article is like, oh, the bezels on the Pixel Watch is not so bad. It has from the looks of it, if not the same bezel, then slightly larger bezels than my old ass Apple Watch Series 3, which, again, something that I've never gotten is the fascination with circular watches whenever it comes to a smartwatch, because you're just straight up sacrificing screen real estate for aesthetic appeal. And, like, you could just have a square screen and you get more out of that, and it's still a fucking watch. Like, if you're trying to design a smart product, there's no reason to stick to the watch design paradigm, especially if you're going to go ahead and then throw away everything else that makes watches look appealing, like the metal bezel and anything remotely appealing about the design. And then they go on and show off that they have watch bands, and it looks like they're using their own stupid proprietary watch band design, which means you're going to either have to pay for Google's way overpriced fucking first party watch bands, or wait for some Chinese clones to show up on AliExpress and then Amazon later on that are you're going to have to hope don't give you some kind of disease whenever you wear them, or hope that the paint doesn't come off of the metal because it's not actually anodized aluminum or anything. It's just fucking painted on steel.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
I
that
get really mad when we talk about consumer electronics on this thing.
yeah, you do.
To be fair, consumer electronics could be a lot better and should be a lot better.
So
Yeah.
I think I might have lied. I think I might just have the first Galaxy Watch, but did you know?
Oh, the one that runs Tizen?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look up the serial number or model number and make sure which one I have. But
Do you rotate the bezel?
yes.
I'm pretty sure that means you have a Tizen one.
Oh, okay. So I could trade in the normal Galaxy Watch, and get $75 in credit, so that I could get a Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 for $75.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like you can get the Samsung Galaxy Watch for way cheaper.
That
Just
does
get
kind
that.
of make me want to trade in my gear.
You
Yeah.
know my fucking Apple Watch 3 is worth like $30 or some shit if I trade it into Apple directly.
Do you have the
A little
Gear?
sad, ain't it?
Do you have the Gear S3?
Yes, I do.
It's $75 credit. You could get the Galaxy Watch 5 for $75.
That would actually be kind of well worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have a hard time saying no to that, actually.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just go to Samsung. It's on Samsung.com.
I imagine by this time your battery life is like halved by now, and
Yeah, it'll still last me like a day and a half, but like I used to spend like 2 or 3 days. I would just like pass out with it on, and then it's got to charge. The fourth day, I would let it like charge overnight. It's full for another 3.5 days.
Anyway,
I'm lucky
I think
to
I just
get,
made
like-
Connor's day.
I'm lucky to
I'm
get
thinking about
24 hours after out of my fucking watch battery. By the way,
Really?
Like-
Mine lasts me. So I have to charge it every Sunday and Thursday. Like I'm charging it right now, and then I'll come back on Wednesday or Thursday, and then I'll charge it again.
like I'll sometimes somehow manage to eke out just enough to like to last until the next day, but I've got to charge it like as soon as I get home from work or something. Like it'll barely last 24 hours.
I'm sorry that you should
And
get a
that's-
new watch.
No, that's the thing. That's just Apple Watches.
That's
like-
true. That's true. You mentioned that before.
And
Maybe that has something to do with like, because I haven't had an Android smartwatch since the Sony smartwatch, and that was Wear OS. That was back whenever it was still called Android Wear. Like, so I don't know how much stuff has changed, but like I think Apple Watch supports like limited multitasking and just has more system level features than Android Wear does or Wear OS does. But I think that Wear OS just kind of offloads a lot of that stuff to the Google Assistant, and it just has the Google Assistant is just better than Siri in every way. So maybe that has something to do with why the battery life is so much better on every Android smartwatch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I put in, so it says Galaxy Watch 3 F09, and I put that in, and it says I have a Galaxy Watch 3, but then I put in the model number, and it says I have just a normal Galaxy Watch. So I'm not sure.
It sounds like they're just doing a promotion where if you have an old Samsung watch, they'll give you $75 for it.
Well, if you have the Galaxy Watch 3, it's $150 trade-in credit.
Oh, so you just like essentially get a free watch.
Basically, yeah. So, I'm gonna look into that after the podcast. But what we are gonna do is we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about something we don't care about, which is the new Nest Wi-Fi Pro that none of us will get.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Because they got rid of the mesh Wi-Fi thing, and now they're just like, here, just all your Wi-Fi just comes out of this Airport Express.
Yeah, it looks like an egg, like a shiny egg. It looks bad.
I don't know who Google has hired to like do their brand identity when it comes to their physical products, but I don't agree with them on like anything.
Yeah, I don't either. For some things, like obviously, I like Google's phones, right? I think that their phones are fantastic for what they are.
But like visually though, like I don't know, they just look like every phone on the market to me. Other than the metal band on the back. I do like the metal band on the back. I think that looks cool. But
Yeah,
otherwise they look they look like they're trying so hard to not look utilitarian that they end up coming around and looking as sterile and utilitarian as possible, and it's kind of gross. Like
yeah,
it doesn't hit that same like I'm somebody that likes old Sony and like older Apple, where at the most you'd get like a rounded corner, but everything else is flat edges for the most part. And like I hate this like you said, egg kind of look. And the color doesn't help at all with that either, right? Because like
yeah,
it's not white. It's like this gross off-white. And I think part of it's the lighting, but it still is just like it's gonna look off-white in most people's houses because most people have off-white lighting. Like they use warm lighting. It's gonna look like shit.
I have
Make it
super
light.
bright lighting.
I use daylight lights in most of my house, but almost everyone that I know of, they buy the like soft white because that's just it reminds them of incandescent bulbs, and that's what everyone got used to. But
Yeah,
I don't know how they understood so well with like the Google Home uh and the even the Google Home Mini too. Like those have interchangeable little color plate things. Like fucking make this thing out of mesh, like with the home pod, and or you know cover it in mesh, and then just sell different colors of it. How could it have been that big of a deal? Especially when I don't know how much this thing is, but I'm sure it's like $250 $300 for this shitty fucking router.
yeah,
Like shitty fucking 2-port router, like one Ethernet for connection and one Ethernet, I guess, for like if you want to plug your or if you need to plug your laptop in to figure out why it's not giving off Wi-Fi.
yeah. I don't. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not
I,
interested in any of this.
Why did they get rid of the mesh network thing and replace it with this?
I I think the
I
mesh
don't know,
network
man.
thing was probably really good. It was a
I
good
think
idea at least.
hold on. I'm gonna check. Uh,
We've got two more
what is
slides to go through. Well, we got one more
they're
slides to go
they're
through.
nothing. They're nothing. It's oh, there's a new doorbell. Look at that new Nest
Uh,
doorbell.
Hey,
Don't buy
hey,
Nest products. They're
yeah,
I
don't buy
terrible.
Nest products.
I have a Nest doorbell. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you want Google to know everyone who's coming into your house.
It
Like,
well, it came with the house. When I
uh,
bought it, it was already plugged in, so I was like, eh.
I think I'd still be replacing that motherfucker.
I'd rip that shit
Uh,
out.
I'm
uh,
I'm not buying another door. What else am I going to use? Am I going to go to Ring and give Amazon all my stuff?
Just go to the Home Depot and
uh,
buy a little electronic one.
I
It'll be
mean,
fine.
yeah, they have many that don't connect to a cloud whatsoever. Uh, and UFI is one that I've come to trust, at least for now, until
Well,
it
that's
turns
good.
out that they have some kind of backdoor built into their encryption protocol. But uh, anyway, I was going to say, um, the Airport Express second generation, a la June 2012, from Apple, had 2 fucking ports on it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been 10 years since then. Why would you release another home router that only has 2 ports, 2 Ethernet ports? Why would you do that? And that one had like a USB port for like if you needed to do some kind of shit. I don't even know. I think you could use it as like a you could probably use it as like a home server or something, like a home NAS. A lot of routers do that nowadays. You can't even do that with this. It doesn't have a USB port. This is a power port. And it doesn't use a standard power cable like the Airport Express did. And I'm not trying to say Airport Express was the best home router ever, because it wasn't. The one with the built-in hard drive was probably the best one that Apple ever put out. But it's just what a fucking time that we live in, that one of the biggest companies in the fucking world puts out a piece of shit product like this, and everyone's gonna fucking jerk it off because Google put out a shiny new router. It looks like a little fucking egg.
Interesting. Yes.
That was a good rant, Aroa.
It was. You are very good. And also, I just want you to know, I was incorrect. They had for the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5, they had the discount applied already. So it's actually $300 for the Galaxy Watch 5.
That makes a lot more sense.
They just for some reason automatically applied a discount, even though you didn't necessarily have a discount. It's dumb the way that they had that working.
Yeah.
So
Connor's not going to be getting a new watch after all.
I'm sorry,
Womp
Connor.
womp.
Which is fine,
tried.
because he still has battery life equal to 2 of my watches. So
Yeah, mine too. Like, mine's like 3 of your watches.
And I do use my watch like all day long. Like if I'm in a sterile environment and I can't take my phone out, looking at my wrist under a bunny suit still works just fine with me.
Yeah, I always keep my phone on silent, and then I just have my watch vibrate to notify me if I have a text message or something. That's all I use it for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't buy the Pixel Watch. Don't buy the network thing.
That's Wi-Fi Pro.
The only thing worth buying on here is of course the Google Pixel 7 and Google Pixel 7 Pro, because they're decent.
It's a smartphone, and they've been the same for the last 5 years.
Yeah,
so
but you notice on here it doesn't tell you prices of anything.
It does not. Classic Gizmodo reporting.
What I'm looking it up right now to see how much the Google Pixel 7 Pro is.
I bet it's $1,000.
$799.
Really? For the Pro one?
Yeah. That
128 gigs of storage?
I believe so.
Okay.
But that is
that matches up.
That is $100 off, so it normally would be $899. And this is from Google. This is from Google Fi, because I use Google Fi. And that is with the 128 gigs. For the, oh man, you're going to love this one. For the normal Pixel 7, with the $100 off, it is $499 for 128 gigs.
Wait, for the normal Pixel 7?
Yes.
It's $500?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's still too much for a phone.
It is.
I think 500's fine. I think that's okay. I think whenever you get up to the $800 range, that's whenever I'm like, why?
Yeah.
But particularly whenever you're getting what is essentially the top tier, or at least equal to top tier SoC for $500, like that's the kind of price that I'm used to seeing for like a mid-range Android phone that's running like a Snapdragon 6 something.
Yeah.
So like I don't think that's bad by any means. I do think that if you're paying $800 for a phone and you're planning on replacing it in a year, then you're stupid.
Yeah.
And like I think I'm stupid for wanting to buy the iPhone Pro, but I want it because of the telephoto lens, which like that's like I think that if you have something specific, then that's a valid thing. But I don't think any random schmuck should go and spend $800 on a phone.
That's why I would get the Pro version of any of these, is for that 5 times optical zoom and the telephoto lens.
Yeah.
It makes taking, like when you're on a trip, like, you know, if you're like I'm going to Montreal, having that extra zoom would be nice for certain buildings, and I don't always want to carry around my M50 with me.
Right.
So
And it's like I don't think you don't replace your phone all that often, do you?
once
It
every
doesn't
2 to
seem
3
like you.
years. Every 2 to 3
Two or,
years.
two
Yeah.
or 3 years. So like, I think it's almost okay. I think I'd probably shoot for 3 years.
Yeah,
Before
I generally skip a generation.
I think a
So
lot of people do that though.
yeah, I'll skip because I have the 6 right now, and I'll probably wait until either the 8 or 9 before I decide to pull the trigger on another one. Usually, it's after 2 or 3 years when my battery starts being shit.
See, I'm on 4 years now with my
Dang.
phone, and that's like I'm I could still probably get away with another year, but I'm probably not even going to get updates past next year.
Just
So
switch to Google Fi, and you can get a Moto G Power for $50.
I don't want Google. I could get a Moto G Power from fucking Consumer Cellular for probably close to that price.
You get a whole 64 gigs of storage. Oh, by the way, we're changing subjects, but talking about storage pissed me off, and
Changing subjects. We were so far off topic already.
I'm gonna rant.
Yeah.
I am gonna rant about this, and then we're done. I told you guys after the podcast last week that I bought 4 14 terabyte internal hard drives.
Yep,
Yeah.
and then they canceled the order. Story over.
What?
They sent me a message saying they were unable to fulfill the order. While the
Because
product
they
is,
didn't like his coupon.
I think that's it. I did get a message back. I emailed them. They did not reply to me for a week. I then messaged Newegg. I started customer support and was like, what the fuck? And because I couldn't review the seller, I went to go review the seller and give them a 1 egg review for just voiding it with no reason. And I couldn't. And so I messaged Newegg, and Newegg's like, oh yeah, because you did not actually purchase the product and they canceled it before you ordered it, you can't review the seller since you never actually bought anything from them.
Oh, that's bullshit.
And that's what I said. I was like, that is a shitty system. That is a terrible system, because then they can cancel the orders without having any repercussions. And I was trying to be nice to the lady.
Did Newegg do anything?
They actually messaged the seller, and the seller got back to me after they messaged the seller. Probably because Newegg, they saw the email from actual Newegg and was like, oh, we should probably do something. And the people messaged me back and said, hey, we will honor the original price if you put in another order. But the reason we weren't able to ship it out was because this last week was a Chinese holiday. For like the whole week.
Well, that's kind of bullshit.
Well,
you could have just accepted the order.
The thing what they said, and I again, I don't 100% believe them. I think it's bullshit. But what they said was because like the delivery systems and shipping out of the country was shut down because of the holiday, Newegg wants them to ship out their products within 48 hours. But since they couldn't do that, they had to void the order. And I was like, I still think that's bullshit.
Yeah, it sounds like an excuse.
But yeah, they could have.
But they did
sent you a message and said that
instead of we can't fulfill it. So most likely, they saw that I was getting a really good discount because I got that $100 off plus already a cheaper price than what they normally are listed for. And they probably voided the order and didn't expect me to actually say anything about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'll reorder those, but I just wanted to rant a little bit. Don't use, I think Sup Energy is what it's called. Don't buy for them.
A PC parts retailer, all right.
It's a PC parts retailer in China. So
yeah, sure they are.
Yeah. Anyway. I am not a huge fan of what happened with that, and I'll still use Newegg because, again, where else am I going to go to buy my computer components? Like Tiger Direct, are they still around?
Amazon.
Ooh, Amazon. Yeah, I don't know.
Walmart.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the end of our podcast for the day. I want to thank you for being here, Aurora.
Yeah, I'm tired now.
I'm sorry. That ranting, it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for
I don't know
being
how
here.
Alex Jones does it.
He does it for hours at a time. It's amazing. And just lies. He lies the whole. Anyway. Thank you for being here, Conora.
Oh, thank God it's finally over.
That sounds like a disease. A Conora. And I, of course, have been your cholera. And of course, I am your host, Nathan Reetin Spruth. We'll be here again next week. And I think is it I'm here next week, and then I am not here for the following 2 weeks. So you're gonna get the dulcet tones of Connor and Aroa, and then halfway through, Aroa's gonna have a call where he has to like leave, and it's just gonna be silence for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You guys know that scene in Wayne's World where Garth gets left alone and starts like having a panic attack on the couch? It's gonna be that in audio format.
Anyway, thank you guys for being here. We will talk to you next week. Goodbye.